Hi guys, welcome to another Star Wars: The Old Republic free-to-play option class guide. This one is for the Scrapper Scoundrel. This is the stun lock you forever and kill you the whole time spec of Star Wars: The Old Republic. The purpose of these videos is to explain how, as a free-to-play player, you can manage with only the 2 quick slot bars you're provided free without having to spend extra money on a third and more quick slot bars. The unfortunate thing is that for just about every class in the game, you can do it almost perfectly, giving up virtually nothing. Scoundrels, that is not the case. Scoundrels, you have to make sacrifices. You can still get the class, you can still get the spec, you can still get the main point of it. But you have to give some things up that it's really hard to do. And I'll get into that as we move forward. So let's just jump right in for the sake of time as I explain how to do this. I want to begin by explaining that there's something unique about Scoundrels and Gunslingers from the other classes, which is that you have a mechanic called cover, and cover gives you 2 things. Cover is a state that you can enter into whereby you're like crouched down, hiding behind something, you know, like you picture in the movies when they're fighting the bad guys, they're crouched down behind a thing, right? That's what cover is. Cover, when you're in cover, you get something called the cover bar. Your first quick slot bar is replaced by the cover bar because there's certain abilities which can only be used in cover, and so the idea is that you're kind of keeping them separate and not confusing them. I personally do not use the cover bar. I don't think the cover bar is helpful. I think it's too confusing to keep track of 2 different sets of abilities for the same buttons. But if you do use the cover bar as a Scoundrel, the saving grace here is that it will provide you with ultimately 10 extra quick slots, which will make you able to fit everything in. My guide is not designed to show you how to do this. However, you will understand after you watch this guide how you should be, which skills and which abilities are worth saving and which ones you can give up. So you'll know which ones to throw into that quick slot bar, that cover bar, to get the extra little kind of cheat out of it and get the extra skills. The other thing about cover is that when you first load up the game as your level 1 smuggler, you're going to have something on your quick slot bar called Take Cover. This is the button you would press to take cover. Do not use this. Take it off of your quick slot bar. For one, it's a skill which is taking up space, and we are very, very tight in terms of space on our quick slot bar. But the other thing is that since the game came out, this has not worked well consistently. It's just kind of been a little funky, and every single smuggler has been using a different way of doing it. If you go into the game options, into the key binds, you can bind a key completely independent of quick bars, which will make your character take cover. It's better. Every smuggler has been doing it. It's what you should be doing. Mine is F. I press the F key, I go into cover, even though it's not on my quick bar. That's what you want to do. The other thing when you first load up the game, as a level 1 smuggler, is you're going to have quick travel on your quick bar. Take this off too. This is another ability you don't need on your quick bar. A lot of people don't have it on there. I don't have it on there on any of my characters. It is just what you use to go to a waypoint. It's like what you use like in WoW terminology to go to a Hearthstone, and it's just something that you pull up every once in a while when you need to do that, and you don't need to have it on your quick bar. You just press P to get at the you'll press P to get at the ability catalog where you'll find this, and you can use it from there. Another ability like that is Sprint. At level 15, you'll get Sprint. It just makes you move faster out of combat. This is a set it and forget it ability. Once you get it at level 15, turn it on, and then you can take it off the bar. Because you want it on all the time. You don't want to be walking slow like ever. If you do need to get at it, again, press P. It's in there. You can access it from there. So, how are we going to go about fitting all of our skills that we need to play Scrapper Scoundrel into our quick slot bars, which we only have 24 slots. We only have 2 bars. Here's what I want you to do. As you level up, I want you to train every single skill that you're presented with, except for a couple which I'll talk to you about in a moment. But train every single one. Then, what I'm going to tell you in a moment, right now, in fact, is I want you to, when your bar gets full, when you hit 24 skills and you have no more room, here's the ones you should take off. So, for example, the first one I'm going to tell you to take off as a Scrapper Scoundrel is Charged Burst. This is primarily a gunslinger skill, and you're a scoundrel. You do not need it. It would be nice to have, but it's not necessary for a Scrapper Scoundrel by any means. It's just a ranged attack, basically, and you have your free auto-attack Flurry of Bolts to do that anyway. It's stronger, but it has a cast time, so don't use it. Save your slot. So, it's going to be on there when you first get the game, and you're going to train it. Keep it there. But what I want you to do is when you hit a point when you have to add another skill but have no more room, take Charged Burst off. The next one that I want you to do that with is Sabotage Charge. This is another thing which is not necessarily useful for a Scrapper Scoundrel by any means. So this is another one, when you need space, take this one off. Next, when you need space the third time, take Vital Shot off. This is for dirty fighting spec. It's not something you really need for Scrapper spec. I mean, you could use it, but it's not core to the spec by any means. Next, Diagnostic Scan. Diagnostic Scan is a heal, and it's actually something that's fairly important for Scrapper Scoundrels to have, is they need to be able to get in, do damage, get out, and maybe heal up a little bit. However, you also have Underworld Medicine, which is a stronger heal. It's the main Scoundrel heal, basically. It's what I would suggest using. I would suggest not using Diagnostic Scan. Save the slot on that. Some Scoundrels might say, no, you should use Diagnostic Scan, but not Underworld Medicine, because Diagnostic Scan is free, and Underworld Medicine costs energy. Play around. If you find you're having energy problems, swap it out. Use Diagnostic Scan instead of Underworld Medicine. But you're going to have to get rid of one of them. Okay. What's next? Colto Pack. Don't even train this. It is for Sawbone Scoundrels, first of all. And second of all, Sawbone Scoundrels, don't use it. It's bad to use as a healing scoundrel. I explain why in the Sawbones video, but just don't even train this one. Other ones not to train are these two: Cheap Shot and Headshot. Every class has this one skill, which is a high damage skill, but it's usable only against weak, standard, and strong enemies. That is, not elites and champions, and it's only usable against stunned targets. It's pretty useless, I think, and a lot of other people too. I don't think it's worth the money. I don't train it, ever. I have plenty of quick slots available. I don't train it on any of my characters. It doesn't fit in with the specs. It's just kind of thrown in, and for a high damage ability, you can't use it against the enemies that you really want to use it against most, those elites and champions. So don't even train it. Another thing that you're going to have to do is Heroic Moment. Take this off your bar. This is a skill which is used to give you some extra survivability in an emergency situation when you've bit off more than you can chew. It's a great skill, but we don't have room for it. That doesn't mean you can't use it. The only time people ever use it has an enormously long 20-minute cooldown. It's very rarely used, other than when you're like fighting a boss and he's too hard and you keep dying, and you think it might give you that extra boost to get over the top. that's when that's the only time it's been used since the game came out. That's what it's for. So keep it off your bar, but if you find that there's an enemy, a boss that you're having a real hard time with and he kills you once or twice, go ahead and swap something off for it temporarily. By the time that you get to this point where you're fighting a boss that's that challenging, you'll have a sense of what you need and don't need. So by then, use your own judgment and say, I can take this off and put Heroic Moment on instead, just for this fight, and then swap it back after. Also, get rid of Blaster Volley. Blaster Volley is a AoE effect skill, which I've never been able to get to work the way I think it's supposed to, but a lot of people love it. Unfortunately, it's not key to the spec. We have other AoE options available. We have our Thermal Grenade, which is more consistent, and we need to get rid of something. So Blaster Volley, at some point when you need space, you're going to get rid of Blaster Volley. And finally, Surrender. Surrender is an ability which you use when you're drawing too much aggro from the enemies, and you want to lower your threat so that they start attacking something else instead. In your leveling experience, you're really not going to need this. It's another thing like Heroic Moment. If there's some area with like a lot of enemies and you're having trouble and they're not all sticking on your tank or whatever, fine. Just put it on temporarily and then take it off again. But generally speaking, you really don't need it. Now, a couple of optional things you can take off. And when I say that is, I mean that in this way. There's some abilities that later on in the game you're going to get that you're going to want to put on your bars. You're going to want to put Speeder on your bar, your mount. It is going to be annoying to have to press P and scroll through the list and find your Speeder after every single fight to jump back on your Speeder, which you're going to want to do once you hit the level 25, 30, 40 levels, because the worlds are bigger. You'll be walking forever without a Speeder. So, go ahead and use your own judgment by this time when you're going to need to make these decisions and say, I'm going to give up one of the following. Excess Freighter Flyby is one possibility. Now, you don't get this till level 48. It's a giant AoE attack. It's really cool. It might be the coolest skill in the game. It's really great in PvP, but for leveling, just everyday PvE, you can honestly deal without it. Maybe if you're in some flashpoints with a lot of ads, you might need to add it back in for that fight. But it's one you could sacrifice, and it's not that huge a sacrifice, ultimately, and it can be added when you need it. And the other one I'd say is Smuggle. Smuggle is one which, for a Scrapper, you should sacrifice as a last resort. Because a Scrapper is all about going into stealth, getting behind a target, stunning him again, and killing him before he can press it. You can just button presses do a darn thing. Or in leveling before the enemy can, fight back, the NPC. Smuggle gives you an extra stealth enter. You really have two stealths. You can go into stealth once, attack, go into stealth again, attack, and then you kind of have to wait on cooldown to get into stealth again. Smuggle gives you a third one. But if you have to give something up, you can kind of give up Smuggle. And again, by the time you have Smuggle at level 42, you'll have a sense of other things that you can give up, like Slice Droid you might be able to give up, which is a skill which stuns a droid for 60 seconds. I think it's important for a lot of fights to have Slice Droid, so I did not say to get rid of it. But again, you'll be able to make these decisions. All right. Now let's just really briefly go over a Scrapper Spec build. It's not necessarily the best build in the world. It's a pretty standard Scrapper build. I'm going to go by level and show you what to put in at what time. And this will help you to play the class well. And I designed it, I went through it and made sure it made sense with only having 2 quick slot bars. Okay, So at level 10, when you get your very first skill point, you're going to put it into Element of Surprise. At level 11, the second one into Element of Surprise. 12 Browbeater, 13 Browbeater, 14 Browbeater. And you can read through these things on your own to see exactly what they do to get an understanding of why we're using them. Next, at level 15, we go Scrappy, and then Scrappy, and then Sneaky 3 times. Now, Sneaky is a skill which is kind of important because, especially for PvE leveling, you as a Scoundrel, as a Scrapper Scoundrel, the way your class works, is your spec works, is to get up behind an enemy in stealth and then do things to him that are only usable from stealth. So increasing your stealth level, that is how invisible you are to the enemies, is actually really important. This is actually not something, this is something which you might consider taking for PvP, for example, but you absolutely should have it for leveling. I think it's very important. Next, we're going to go Sucker Punch. This is a skill. It's going to go onto your bar. It is going to go onto your bar. You're going to put it there. It takes up it takes something up. Next, you're going to do Flying Fists, 1 and 2. Then you're going to come over here and add a point to flanking. Now you should be at level 24. We're going to go Surprise Comeback. At level 25, we want to go for round 2, 1 and 2. And then we should be at level 27, and we're going to go Fight or Flight. And then Sawed Off. I think I missed something somewhere. Okay, so put Stopping Power and then Sawed Off. If you want, I think it is more efficient to do Stopping Power before round 2, but either way, this is probably better to do first. So now at level 30, we've just taken Sawed Off. At level 31, we're going to take Turn the Tables. 32, Turn the Tables. Then we're going to go Flee the Scene, and then KO 1 and 2, Underdog 1, 2, and 3, and Flechette Round. And Flechette Round is, again, it's an ability. It takes up a quick slot, but you need it. This is key, absolutely critical key to this particular spec. Moving on, we're going to go to Holdout Defense at level 41 and 42. No Holds Barred will bring you up to level 45. Dirty Escape. And then over here to Bedside Manner. It sounds like a healing skill, but it's not. It is increasing your stats, and it's going to make your stats better. So there you go. If you want to see the text version of this, it's in the link below the video, of course. And we have videos for every single advanced class in the game. So if you want to play one of those, it's free to play as well. So I hope that it works out well for you, and have fun, guys.